Okay, this next example, we want to figure out what is going on. This is example 2 in the textbook. We want to figure out what's going on limit as x approaches positive or negative infinity. This means handle them separately. Of 20x squared minus 3x, all that over 3x to the fifth minus 4x squared plus 5. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, we're going to find the highest power of x that's in anything, and in this case it's x to the fifth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply, well, first of all, we're going to keep this plus minus infinity till we're ready to actually go through and analyze what's going on, because it may be the case that it works for either or, but we're basically, while we're algebraically manipulating stuff, we'll deal with that, and if it comes a point we need to say, okay, now what's going on in x going to positive infinity, now what's going on to x as x approaches negative infinity, we'll branch it off once we hit a point where we're ready to evaluate stuff if we need to. So the highest power is x to the fifth, so I'm going to multiply the top by 1 over x to the fifth and the bottom by 1 over x to the fifth. So we get 20x squared minus 3x, and we get 3x to the fifth minus 4x squared plus 5. So I will distribute and cancel as I go. So we're going to get 20 times 1 over x to the fifth multiplied to x squared. That will leave us with a 1 over x cubed, because there's 5 x's down below. These 2 x's are up top. So 2 of the 5 x's cancel, and they leave 3 down below. We get minus 3 times, we have 5 x's down here, 1 x up top. That will leave us with 4 x's. Down here, x to the fifth will cancel completely. That'll just leave a 3. Minus 4 times, let's see, 2 x's up top, 5 down below. That will leave us a 1 over x cubed. And then a plus 5 times 1 over x to the fifth. So let's look at the, this one actually we can do, it's going to work out the same as positive or negative, so we could kind of do it all at once. But maybe I'll write it out just for each of the cases. So let's split it up into the positive case, which is 21 over x cubed minus 3, 1 over x to the fourth, all that over 3 minus 4, 1 over x cubed, plus 5 times 1 over x to the fifth. And then we also want to say what's going on with the limit as x approaches negative infinity of that exact block of stuff. Do it that way. Okay, so what's going on? As x approaches positive infinity, you get 1 over very large numbers cubed, which become very small fractions. 20 times very small fractions are very small numbers. And then over here we get 3 times 1 over x to the fourth. As x's grow and grow and grow, 1 over something getting bigger and bigger and bigger gets smaller and smaller and smaller. 3 times something getting smaller, smaller, smaller gets smaller as well. So we get basically 0 minus 0, which is 0 up top. Down below we get a 3, and the same thing happens. 1 over x cubed goes to 0. 1 over x to the fifth goes to 0. 4 times stuff going to 0 goes to 0. 5 times stuff going to 0 goes to 0. So we get 3 minus 0 plus 0, which is just 3. So this is 0 over 3, which is 0. So limit as x approaches infinity heads to 0. In the negative case, we get 20 over 1 over negative stuff cubed, which negative stuff cubed tapers to 0 as the negatives get bigger and bigger and bigger. They get cubed, so you get 1 over larger and larger and larger numbers. That approaches 0. 20 times thing approaching 0 is 0. We get -3 times something also approaching 0 approaches 0, so the top is 0. And the bottom, it turns into the same thing. These 1 over x cubed and 1 over x to the 5th go to 0. So we get 0 over 3, which is 0. So in this case, we probably could have left it together and just done it all at once there, but when you see that plus minus out front, that means split it up into the positive value and the negative case and kind of view them separately. So in this case, we got them both going to 0. And really what's kind of driving this is if you have 1 over x to a power and the x's go to infinity or the x's go to negative infinity, if you have like 1 over x to the n, I guess we should say n is positive, then this right here, as long as the n's positive, so you have like 1 over x cubed, 1 over x to the 5th, 1 over x to the 4th, these type of things will turn into 0. And it's because this grows into the bottom grows larger and larger and larger in positive, or larger and larger and larger in negative. And when you do 1 over large stuff, you get very small stuff. Or if you get 1 over negative large stuff, you get negative small stuff, which approaches 0. So that's kind of what's driving these.